welcome to the Electrify Hingham Heat Pump Forum. Thank you. My name is Brianna Bennett, and I'm the Sustainability Coordinator from the Hingham Light Plant, the host of today's event. I hope everyone had a chance to grab some food and check out the tables that are in the other room. You can use that back door to my left anytime to grab more food, use the restrooms that are down the hall, and then in the event of an emergency, there's a back door to my right that leads outside. If you end up stepping away, don't worry. This event is being recorded by Harbor Media. You see the cameras in the back. So you can rewatch it as many times as you desire. Please try to be quiet if you do get up at all, and I'll ask that everyone put your phones on silent. We'll make a deal. If your phone rings or dings during the presentation, I'm sticking you with the bill for the food. So this is Hingham Light's first time hosting an event like this, and I want to sincerely thank you all for showing up and showing interest. Also, thank you to HMLP's General Manager, Tom, I don't know where he is, for green-lighting this event, and to all of the volunteers who made this possible. My co-coordinator, Joanne Heilman, members of the Hingham Climate Action Commission, Hingham Net Zero, volunteers here from Hingham High School, and all of the people presenting and tabling. And thank you to the Lutheran House of Prayer for hosting us in this space today. This event is entirely zero waste, thanks to Maria Zaid from Cleaner Greener Hingham. You can compost your food, plates, utensils, and most things at our waste station, which is over here. We have a Bokashi compost system that was set up by Peter Swanson. I'm very grateful to all of our volunteers whose generosity with their time and energy made this event possible. With that, I will get this show on the road. So on the next slide, I have a little agenda. We have a series of short presentations for you that should wrap up in about an hour and a half. Once the presentations are done, we'll do the raffle drawings, and then we'll take a short break while we set up for the Q&A. Please note, you have to be here to win the raffle, so stick around. And then you're, again, welcome to grab more food at any time or visit the restrooms. And then I have a slide with all of our speakers today. There are a lot of speakers, but you've already met me, so that's one down. I'll let the speakers largely introduce themselves to you, but we have an incredible lineup. First, you'll get context about what's happening at the state and local level that makes this conversation about heat pumps so important. And then we'll start to dig a little deeper into your home's energy efficiency and what to do before you upgrade your HVAC system, probably with a heat pump. And then we'll move on to, as promised, a deep dive into heat pumps with our heat pump experts, Abode Energy, and talk exactly about what a heat pump is and how to get one. Then we'll go a little deeper into demand response and how you can use electric appliances like heat pumps to help your utility save money, you can earn incentives, and play a role in our electric grid. Finally, we'll discuss how you may be able to finance your heat pump project at low interest. This should be a very fun and interesting next hour and a half. Please don't feel overwhelmed if you miss any information, because we're here to answer all of your questions, and you can rewatch the presentation anytime. So on the next slide, this is an Electrify Hingham event, so I should probably tell you what Electrify Hingham is. It is an HMLP program that we started in 2022 to help folks like yourselves transition to a more comfortable, efficient, and electric lifestyle away from fossil fuels. This looks different for everyone. It may mean replacing your oil furnace when it dies with a heat pump, or making your next car electric, or putting solar panels on your roof. It's about giving you the tools to choose and take advantage of opportunities when they're available. As a part of Electrify Hingham, I have some information about our rebates. At the Hingham Light table, you may have saw we have a flyer that summarizes all of our rebates, so I recommend taking that with you before you leave today so that you have them all right in your hand. And then we have everything right on our website at hmlp.com/rebates. Our rebate for home weatherization, for instance, like insulation or air sealing, is 50% of the project cost up to $1,000. Our heat pump rebate is $750 per ton up to $4,500, and that can actually go up to $6,000 with our adders. So it's an additional $500 if you do the weatherization with your heat pump, and it's up to $1,000 if you do a whole home heat pump project where that heat pump can meet the needs of your entire heating system. Don't worry, there will not be a quiz. We have various appliance rebates like thermostats, induction stoves, heat pump dryers, and heat pump water heaters. If you have more specific questions about the rebates, you can ask during the Q&A, or we can talk separately. My card is also on the Hingham Light table. HMLP also has a flyer you can take on our billing and payment programs to make paying your electric bill as easy as possible. So for all customers, just so you know, if you pay by the 15th of the month, you can get an approximate 10% discount on your electric bill. The easiest way to never miss this discount is to sign up for auto pay online. Each month, it'll withdraw for you. So just go to our website or give us a call and we can help you sign up for that. If you're on any income-based programs like food stamps, Head Start, LIHEAP, WIC, certain tax relief programs, certain veteran services, then you can apply for HMLP's income adjusted rate. This is an approximate 15% discount on certain electric bill items. And there's an application you can fill out right on our website, and you can contact HMLP for any help. So with that, I would like to invite our State Representative, Joan Moschino, to take the stage and tell us a little bit more about what's going on at the state level.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. And I want to just, a quick round of applause for Brianna. She really has organized everything. I know this is our Hingham Light Plant doing this, and I know your commissioners are in the room, but there's always one that takes the lead, and it's always Brianna, and we're grateful. And I'm just going to say she does live in Hull. I just want you all to know. So I wanted to come today. I was invited to speak a little bit, very briefly, about the state's climate goals. As you know, we filed and got passed in 2021 the 2050 roadmap to net zero. And what this really was an update to the original climate goals and the emission reduction goals that we had set for ourselves in 2008. And what we knew was that it was we had started around how we were producing energy, but we wasn't really getting at the rest of it because there's 5 important sectors, and of course, one of the most important sectors is how we heat our homes. So it was great that things were switching over from oil and coal to natural gas, and now you see us taking those next steps on wind and hydroelectric and nuclear and all these different things. But it's how you get into the other sectors, right? Because emissions come from how we drive, what car we drive. It comes from how we heat our homes, and it also comes from industry, and then the last sector, of course, is sequestration and how we conserve natural working lands. So we're here today around residences. So what happened was when we put that 2050 roadmap into place, what it basically did was it updated our emissions goals to net zero. It put in place interim goals, and it set a floor, not a ceiling. And what that was really meant to do, and what Hingham always does great, is it was meant to put a framework for planning over 30 years to make those goals, so that we didn't just slide up to 2050 and wonder how we were going to get this done. And so what it did was it inspired and it triggered a lot of policy work around these things. And of course, housing is one of the most important pieces, because in Massachusetts, at least 30%, I think it's 28% of our emission goals comes from how we heat our homes. And when you're in the city, it's 60%. But then when you start to really tackle it, if you're living in condos or you're living in apartments, that's easy, right? Because we can sort of bang for your buck. But I think the most sobering statistic to me was that 80% of the homes that we will have in 2050 exist right now. So how we retrofit our homes, how we do that work, becomes very important as whether or not we'll achieve those goals. And of course, with those local emission goals is our leadership as a state and as communities for the nation and for the world to achieve global warming. So one of the things that I love is that we have in my district 2 municipal light plants, and I just want you all to know Hingham leads. And part of what makes this so important to you as you're thinking about and learning more about air source heat pumps and other options. And there are other options. I've been learning a lot about network geothermal and all of these cool, interesting things. But one of the things that really makes it so much more pragmatic and realistic, especially for a community like Hingham, is that you have a municipal light plant. And why that's important is because of the way that they conduct their business. That means that you will have relatively low, steady rates that you can rely on. So you realistically can make those choices to switch over. One of the other things I just wanted to mention to you is that as a community, you can also lead. So we have these statewide goals, and that inspires, right? That's the decarbonization of our economy. That inspires technology, investments in new technology, investments in research. But the reality is that the state can only do so much. What really happens is whether or not it inspires innovation and action at the local level. All of this climate change work is going to happen here in communities like Hingham, led by your light plant and fantastic staff like Brianna. They're going to make it happen. So you're going to hear a little bit more about this in detail because I am not the person to tell you about the details. But I will just say that following up on its larger piece, agencies like Energy and Environmental Affairs and working with some of their sub-agencies like DOER and different ones like that are going to continue to push this policy. They're going to continue to make things available to you, programs, whether they're like we used to do the solar RECs, and there'll be other things that'll be coming. And a lot of this will come and flow through your Green Communities Act, through the MVP Act. And so it's the state's job now to start to push down, to inspire that technology, push down the opportunities and the supports. And I am delighted to be a state representative. I am delighted to engage in this work. And I am uplifted by all of your interests and all of your support to continue to advocate for the resources so that you can have opportunities like this. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it back to the woman of the hour, Brianna. And I do just want to give one really quick shout out. I engage in this work because of my great friend and partner in crime, Laura Burns. And when you get a chance today, somewhere along the line, I want you to thank her because we came together. We met with the original proponents of the 2050 roadmap, and she was my great partner in crime. And we literally went door to door to all of the state representatives. And that was the way we were able to persuade Speaker DeLeo to pass this bill and to elevate it and persuade then Governor Baker, to sign it. And I'm excited to say, as he was a climate champion, and as he stepped away, in came Governor Healy, who has embraced all of this. But it starts with community. It starts with organizing. And that's how you build support, and that is what you're doing today. So, as always, super proud to represent Hingham. Glad to be here today, and I'm going to have to excuse myself, but I'm sure it'll be very interesting and fantastic. And go get them like you always do.
Thank you, Joan. And now we'll have Brad Moyer from the town's Hingham Climate Action Commission come up to just give you some context about what's happening here in Hingham.
Sure. Thanks, Brian. Afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Brad Moyer. I'm chair of Hingham's Climate Action Commission. Yes, we have one. For those who don't know, Hingham adopted a climate action plan back in 2023. So as Representative Moschino was mentioning, What the state does is of paramount importance, but the implementation is going to happen at the local level. And Hingham has been a leader in the South Shore in this regard. So we adopted a climate action plan in 2023. Oh, I'm sorry, next slide, please. That sets forth a goal of being net zero within Hingham by the year 2040. Now, this is a living document that the Climate Action Commission is charged with overseeing the implementation of and helping refresh that plan to ensure that we are meeting that goal. Next slide, please. So the contours of that plan focus in 6 areas. I'm not going to walk you through them all now. I will be brief, but I'm going to highlight that dark blue section, buildings. And as we'll see on the next slide, the reason why we are focused on that is because, as Representative Moschino is mentioning as well, when she was targeting buildings and retrofitting existing structures as being the main target, we see the data in Hingham supporting that as well. So we did a carbon inventory back during the development of the plan using 2021 data, which was the most recent we had available. And fully 69% of carbon emissions in Hingham are due to buildings. And the vast majority of that is going to be in the residential slide. Next slide, please. So as you can see, most homes in Hingham are using oil, followed closely by natural gas. So that is a tremendous amount of source of emissions for the town. And so air source and ground source heat pumps, or geothermal, are an amazing opportunity to help reduce that, as well as provide other benefits in the home. I am personally a heat pump owner, installed a system last year. I can't recommend enough working with HMLP as well as Abode to help facilitate that process. So speaking personally, if there's one thing you take away from today, it's call Abode, and have that one-on-one session with them so that they can help you come up with a system that is going to best meet your needs and take advantage of the generous HMLP rebates. And if you're a natural gas customer, the Mass Save rebates that will be available to you. That's all I wanted to say with regard to the work we do on heat pumps. One last thing I'm going to put a plug in, though, is a town meeting coming up next month. There is Article O regarding the specialized code. That is something that the Climate Action Commission, along with the Energy Action Committee, is recommending that the town adopt. And that is a code for new construction in Hingham that helps facilitate electrifying new homes. It's not prescriptive. If you still want oil heat, you still want gas heat, you can have it. But what this does is helps incentivize developers to electrify homes or prepare them for electrification, because we know as technologies improve, as time goes on, electrification will be the way to go. It will be a cost-effective way to go. And so this warrant article will help make it easier for new construction to be prepared for that future. So thank you very much. I will no longer be in your way to the stuff that really matters, and that's the heat pump stuff. So thank you.
Good afternoon. Thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Noel Chambers. I am with Energy New England. For those of you who don't know, Energy New England is a municipal cooperative, and it is partially owned by Hingham Municipal Light Plant. So we help to provide services to Hingham and other customers in the state. One of the first things, or one of the big things I'd like to talk to you about today, is really the idea of efficiency first. So before we get into all the really big fancy things like doing heat pumps, there's a bunch of really unfun things that you need to do. And I'll put that loosely in quotes. But the idea is that before you go and you put a heat pump in your home, you need to make sure that your home is properly insulated, that the air sealing the whole envelope is tightened up, because the last thing you want to do is put in an oversized heat pump. And Paxton and Jamie are probably going to talk a lot about that in there. So I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty details there. I'm going to say it pretty high level and just talk through what the home energy assessment process is, what you can hope to get out of that, and then hopefully encourage you to sign up if you have not yet, for the purposes of things like Hingham's rebates for weatherization, for the The heat pump rebates, the home energy assessment is a requirement of those. So if you were thinking about potentially going down the pathway of doing a heat pump sometime in the next 3 years, recommend you get an energy assessment now that, in quotes, is good for 3 years. So even if you don't do anything for the next 30 months, you don't need to get another one right before you do the work. So as a consideration in you doing some short to mid long-term planning, that's a great first step. So really the four things, the big ticket items I'd like to talk a little bit about today is the preparation about how do you get yourself prepared for a home energy assessment, what the process is going to look like for you. There's sort of two different pathways to go down it, a virtual assessment and an in-person assessment. Talk about some of the tools that we do use or we can use at your house, and then talk you through basically the tail end, what that report looks like for you, and then how do you take that and sort of go and talk with the abode folks, get contractors into your home, and start making those recommendations actionable. So the first thing, how do you schedule a home energy assessment? Well, there's really three ways to go about doing that. You can go to our website, and that's super simple and easy. It's 9 or 10 characters, ene.org/HEA. That's going to bring you to a main landing page. There's going to be a button right on that landing page, say sign me up or something to that effect. You can email us at hea@ene.org, or you can give us a phone call at 888-772-4242. As I mentioned on the previous slide, there's really two audit pathways to choose from, an in-person assessment or a virtual. And I think we'll get into that. Leading up to it. So the next slide. Preparation. So as you're getting ready for us to arrive at your house, some of the things you should be thinking about is sort of preparing the day before. If you have another heating source in your home, natural gas, oil, propane, we'd really like to have 12 to 24 months of those bills if they're available. That just helps make the model, the energy assessment model that we do at the back end, that much more accurate. It helps better fit all the savings predictions for your home, just sort of truing all that up. We also would really like to have full access to your home or your condo or what have you, and that we're trying to go from the basement to the attic, and we're trying to document all of the equipment in your home. When I'm saying equipment, that's your boilers, your furnaces, your refrigerators. If you've got a pool, the pool pump, if you've got EV charging, if you've got solar, we're trying to document all those big end using devices in your home so that the model you're getting and the recommendations that you're getting from us are going to best fit what your glide scope into decarbonizing, becoming more efficient, whatever your long-term goal is, to help best make sure that you're going to be able to achieve those goals. One of the things that we do request access to is a ladder, and that's if you don't have sort of a pull-down staircase for your attic, it just makes it a lot easier for us. If you're going down the virtual pathway, that's where we're going to be talking to you through FaceTime or Google Chat, something like that, is have a flashlight. There's dark areas in your home, and sort of using that mechanism where you're walking around your home with the phone, that's going to allow our auditor to sort of see what's going on and be able to make note of what all the equipment is. And HMLP, when they approve you for a home energy assessment, basically making sure you're a customer of record, you're in good standing, they send us 12 months of your energy consumption, so you do not need to have that for us. So day of the assessment. It's a really unfortunate thing that we have to ask for, but we do have to ask that any pets you have in the home are secured. In the past couple of years, we've unfortunately had some of our auditors have run in with animals and needed to go to the emergency room afterwards. We really want you to be ready to engage with your auditor. We want you to make sure you're getting the maximum out of this as well. And you certainly can invite them into your home and then go off and do something else. Maybe you need dishes, maybe you've got a little one at home and you need to take care of them, and that's completely fine. We will go through your home, make sure that we're getting approval to go into other spaces to be able to document all of those things. But the best case is when you walk through that home with your energy auditor and asking questions or giving commentary about, well, this room's typically the cold room, or this room feels really drafty. If we're just walking around on any random Tuesday, we won't necessarily know that. We don't live there. We haven't lived there. So it's really those contextual pieces of detail is going to help make your assessment, your SnugPro report, that much more accurate and relevant to your home and what you're trying to achieve by having started this process. And sort of tailing into that last point, it was like, let us know your concerns. We can't help you provide recommendations for those concerns without you letting us know what they are. You live there. You're there every day, quite often, quite a lot of the time of the day. So just let us know. It's going to be really, really helpful. So sort of showing you the split between what happens on an in-person assessment and what happens on a virtual assessment. So we'll start on the in-person side first. So optimally, we're going to want access to all the rooms in your home and making sure that we're able to document all the bits and pieces throughout your house. Because like I said earlier, is that's going to give you the most robust, the most accurate energy model and give you the best series of recommendations for your home. If it's requested and there's been approved by HMLP, we can use specialty equipment. So there are some sort of unique conditions for some of those. Things like infrared cameras where we can literally look at a wall and to an effect sort of have that heat vision idea that you've sort of seen in comics and in Superman and stuff like that is we'll be able to see if there is insulation present or maybe where there's air coming through that wall around the window, things like that. But we require roughly a 20-degree temperature differential between the inside of your house and the outside of your house. And that's going to allow us to really see if it's very cold outside, say a 20-degree day, you're heating your home to 70. If there's cold air penetrating through around your window, or maybe you don't have insulation, that wall is going to appear very blue. It's going to be cold. And that's going to tell us, hey, you probably need wall insulation. Another aspect, and this is much more of a diagnostic tool, and certainly when you're going through the process of having insulation or air shielding done in your house, this is a tool that's exceptionally critical for that. And the people doing the work are going to use it. It's called a blower door test. What that is, they're basically going to put a giant piece of fabric in your door frame, stick a big old fan in it, and they're going to depressurize your home. And as they're doing that, they're going to walk around your home and understand where are the areas of leakage. And actually, in many cases, you can use what's called a smoke pen, sort of spray it a little bit and sort of see where the air is seeping in around doors, windows. Helps you sort of understand, is my home tight or is it loose? Because you don't want a super tight house unless you've got mechanical ventilation, something like a heat recovery ventilator, because then you can create sort of a knock-on series of negative impacts for your health. On the virtual aspect, this is where we will connect with you over a smart device of some type. So it's using Google Meet, FaceTime, and our auditor is going to be at their desk. They're going to be having SnugPro on the tablet open in the background and entering in all the details as you're physically walking around the home, showing them, here's my heating system, here's my cooling system, here's my refrigerator, those types of things. And they're going to be going through and documenting all those bits and pieces. So the first big tool, and this is really the tool, it's called SnugPro. This is the state of Massachusetts preferred auditing tool. If and when the federal administration does get to the point of hopefully releasing the IRA to the state of Massachusetts, this tool is, I think, the only, or it is the first, and I think it may be the only tool that meets the requirements of the IRA program. So when you're starting to think about if that does get approved, the additional dollars available for things like weatherization for heat pumps, an audit performed with this tool showing a 20% energy savings, you can quite literally take that to the bank and request the additional incentive dollars there. The tool calibrates its model to your energy consumption. So that's why it's really important that if you have your oil bills, your propane bills, and we're obviously getting your electric from Hingham directly, that gets provided to us, because that really helps true the model up for what your home is actually doing versus trying to interpret what it may be doing based on the number of occupants and the number of pieces of equipment you have in your home, like refrigerators. If you've got multiple, it's trying to predict and think through what could the usage be. And then really, it's also going to throw flags to us to say, hey, these things seem out of line or out of whack. for what we'd expect in a home of that square footage, of that type of a heating system, and just making sure that everything pencils out to really be true and relevant to what your home is and what you're seeing on a day-to-day basis. So this is talked about this a little bit, and I think you'll see in very stark contrast, blue is bad in this case. So what we're trying to do here is we're looking at a wall, and anything that's blue is showing that's an uninsulated section between those two studs. And that means that cold air is effectively coming through, and it's making your heating system have to work harder. So when you're thinking about, I want to put a heat pump into my home, heat pumps are very sensitive to the amount of heat loss in a building. And as Jamie and Paxton will talk about this, but getting them right-sized means making sure that you've addressed any of these envelope concerns in your home. Blower door, sort of mentioned this earlier as well, so we can go fairly quickly through this, but it's really a diagnostic tool. It's going to help really fine-tune and true up the idea of how tight are you making your home. You never want to go below 0.35 air changes an hour without having some type of mechanical ventilation to be bringing fresh air into your home. And it should be being utilized during when the weatherization contractor, the air sealing and the insulation is being done. They should be utilizing it every so often to make sure they're not over tightening your home as they're going through that process. So going into the potential area for savings. So four big things that we're looking at and that really tie into a lot of the rebates that Hingham provides. We're looking at things like heat pump water heaters. How are you creating hot water for your home for things like showers and dishwashing? How do you heat your home? So thinking through how could you potentially upgrade to things like heat pumps? What might that cost? Air sealing, as you can see in the bottom left-hand image, and then open blow, I think in this case fiberglass, to how do you then raise the R value of your home, of the envelope, to make sure you're losing less heat and you can fundamentally reduce the size of the equipment, which also reduces the cost of the equipment. So this is what I think probably the most critical page of the SNUGPro report you're going to get. On this left-hand side of the image, it's going to sort of talk through what the totals are. So what we think the total cost might be if you do all of the measures listed there, what the software thinks your energy savings are going to be, and then giving you a savings to investment ratio. And so what the savings to investment ratio is basically a prediction of the cost over the savings, and looking at a little bit of the measure life as will this measure pay back in its lifetime? And if it's over 1, it will. And you'll see something like lighting having a wildly astronomical savings to investment ratio because light bulbs are super cheap. And if you have something like an incandescent light bulb at 60 watts, and then you're going to a 9-watt LED, you're saving 49, I can't do the math, whatever, 51 watts. Never do math on the spot, bad idea. So it's just sort of penciling out and showing you where your potential energy savings are going to be, what some estimated costs for doing the upgrade might be. And again, I think one of the really important things to always think about is E&E, we are not going through to write out a scope of work for you to take to a contractor and say, install this. We're giving you a series of recommendations to encourage you to go to an organization like Abode, to abodeem.com, and look at their contractor list and select 2 to 3 weatherization contractors, 2 to 3 heat pump contractors, get a series of quotes, and then use their heat pump coaching and understand how do you best, which one of these 3 proposals is going to heat or cool my home appropriately, 90 to 110% of my heat load, which one is going to provide me with the right equipment, maybe which one has the best warranties, which one's going to be the most reliable. Those are a lot of the things that Abode, through their heat pump coaching service, is going to help you understand what's the best product for my home, my situation. One of the other things you're going to receive as part of the home energy assessment is the Mass Home Energy Scorecard. This is a Department of Energy Resources tool, and it's going to help you understand how your home, based on your square footage, compares to a whole host of other homes throughout the Commonwealth. So in this case, this is actually a Hingham resident from an energy assessment that we did earlier this year. So this home was built in '97, has 4 bedrooms, and it's about 3,300 square feet and heated by oil. So you'll see that this home is somewhere around, we'll just round up to 100 and the home energy scorecard and MMBTU consumed per year is about 160 per square foot. The average home in Massachusetts is about 125. And if this homeowner were to implement everything on that series of recommendations from the previous slide, their MMBTUs would drop down to about 51. So as you think about dropping those down, getting rid of fuel oil, you're also talking about decarbonizing and going on to an electric system that fundamentally has goals that they have to work towards by 2050, having 100% carbon-free or renewable portfolio. So incrementally, each year that goes by, the power supply that you're getting from Hingham becomes incrementally greener or less carbon intensive. So it's just those incremental steps that you can see. And there's some other charts here about what happens with your savings and how those pencil out with your carbon intensity. And just from there is wrapping it up and saying, thank you for inviting us here today. I hope you're all going to take something away. Certainly the Abode team has some great ideas. The Next Zero program being presented by Zoe, there's a lot of really good information there about how you can help contribute to maintaining your low rates in town. And then CET is going to talk about some of the really innovative loan products that are going to be coming out, and definitely pay attention to that. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Happy spring. Thank you, HMLP, for having us here. I'm representing Abode along with Jamie here. My name is Paxton also. I'm an Associate Program Manager working closely on our Municipal Light Plant programs. And I'll be here today to talk to you a little about what Abode does. Jamie will come in here and talk about heat pumps and bring you, some information about heat pumps that will be important to think about as you start pursuing a project. So go to the next slide. So as I mentioned here, Abode is a third-party technical consultant. So basically, we help municipal light plants, utilities. We work with contractors. We kind of work across the board to help run or coordinate with programs and really push for electrification and especially focusing on the residential space. So we're going to be talking a lot about heat pumps today. We can go to the next slide. Can you put that up, Dick?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jamie Haber. I'm I guess you would call me the technical consultant for our Abode MLP team. So let's talk about heat pumps. Heat pumps have a lot of benefits. They can heat and cool, which is a lot more than most fossil fuel systems can do. It has the ability to improve your air quality versus like an oil system, for example, which may have some soot in the air, stuff like that. And they can be less expensive to run overall than a lot of the fossil fuel systems on the market. So what is a heat pump? Well, as the name suggests, it is a pump. It is like a water pump, moves water from one place to another. A heat pump moves heat from one place to another. It uses a refrigerant cycle similar to an air conditioner or a refrigerator, where it removes heat from one space and puts it into the other. So in the summertime, it's removing heat just like your central air conditioning would. It's removing heat from the inside of your house, pushing it to the outside, pumping it outside. And in the wintertime, it's actually finding heat energy in the cold air. And we'll talk a little bit more in a little bit about how colder temperatures can be a factor with this and why it's not a problem, actually. So let's go to that one. There are 3 main components of heat pump system design. And these are the 3 things that if you have a consultation with me that I'm going to be talking about pretty much every single time. We're going to look at the distribution. So is it going to be through ductwork that's already existing in the house, new ductwork, or is it going to be ductless, like wall mounts or floor mounts? We'll have pictures of those in a few minutes. There's a lot of different ways that you can get a heat pump to effectively heat and cool a house. Sizing is a very, very big important factor. Another way to put that is capacity. So we'll talk about if a heat pump is too big or too small, what can be the negatives from that. Really, you do want to have a heat pump to be like really perfectly sized to the house, and there's ways to get that done pretty easily as well. And then capacity maintenance, that's kind of what I was going to get at about how a heat pump performs as it gets colder and colder outside. So how much of that capacity is maintained as it gets colder outside to pull the heat from that outside air. These are some pictures here of ductless units. So there's the typical one you see is the wall hung. That's the one we had on the table out there. I guess it's a table hung today. I don't know. There's also floor mount ones. If you have a house that has a lot of like steam radiators, for example, and you're planning on getting rid of your steam system, but you don't want to put a wall unit up, the floor mount units can be a really good opportunity there because they can take the same space as the old steam radiators would. Ceiling cassettes are slightly less common, but still very effective, and they can actually push air in 4 directions, which is very nice. They're really good for second floors and basements and things like that where you have access to the space above the ceiling. There's ducted systems as well. So you can have ductless like the previous page, or you can have ducted. Compact ducted or central heat pumps, there's 2 different versions of a ducted system. One's just obviously a little bit bigger based on the name. You can believe which one it is. It basically comes down to the air pressure and how the systems are installed. So a compact ducted wouldn't be able to go as far, wouldn't have as much air pressure in the tube, as it were, as a central heat pump would. But most homes that have central air conditioning right now can be completely easily retrofit to have a central heat pump, no problem. Goldilocks. You guys know the Goldilocks story, right? Okay. So we can go to the next page. What happens when the system is too big or too small? Well, a lot of things. If it's undersized, it kind of acts like a spot heater, almost like a space heater in the wintertime, for example, like similar to like a wood stove or something like that, a pellet stove, where it's kind of heating one smaller area, but it's not really able to keep up with the demands of the entire floor of the house or the entire house. Too few indoor units. If it's a ductless system, you can get comfort issues. You can have higher bills because the system is running more I guess harder. I guess you would call it. Running harder. It's churning more, and it's hard on the equipment too. The harder the equipment works, the less lifespan you're going to get out of it. So we really don't like systems that are too small. So what happens when it's oversized? Okay, oversized. This is a very, very common situation. Very common for contractors to come in and say, well, we're going to take care of the fact that it doesn't perform well at low temperatures by making it bigger overall. The problem with that is multiple. An oversized system, it can definitely lead to comfort issues. The spaces may overheat or not cool properly. In the summertime, especially, if a system is oversized, you can get humidity concerns in the house. They could actually not dehumidify as well. I like to put it kind of like a traffic analogy. So when you're going down like 93 and you're going on cruise control and it's like perfect, and then you get bumper to bumper traffic, right? So the cruise control is where the heat pump is most comfortable. That's where your car is most comfortable. It's where it's most fuel efficient. It's just kind of cruise it, right? And so when the heat pump is perfectly sized, which we can go to the next page, but when it's perfectly sized, it's operating like cruise control for your car. When it's oversized, that's where it's going bumper to bumper. It's accelerating, it's stopping, it's accelerating, it's stopping, and that's called short cycling when it comes to heat pumps. And that can be not great. It's not ideal. And like I said, a lot of times the strategy of many contractors, at least in the past, has been to oversize systems because they want to avoid comfort callbacks. But realistically, what you need to do is very simple. There's a calculation that they call Manual J. It's a really funky name called Manual J. And that calculation basically looks at a lot of different factors in the house all at once. So it looks at insulation levels and window values and volume of the house and air infiltration, orientation of the buildings, all these things go into one kind of soup, as it were. And it comes up with basically this prescription for the house and says, all right, well, this is how much heat loss is happening in the winter. This is how much heat gain is happening in the summer. So this is what size heat pump we need. It's really that simple. All right, let's go to what's typical for heat pump sizing. So typically we see sizing about 60% of the systems that we see coming through with our quote comparison service, they're pretty well sized. Generally speaking, you want between 90 and 120% of the manual J calculations results. Now that'll be fine. You'll be able to adequately heat an entire house just fine, or cool an entire house just fine with a system like that. When you get into really big systems, really small systems, like I said, it can be a challenge to maintain comfort as well as you want. So it is very important to get it sized properly. And the manual J calculation is something that your heating contractor typically will be performing as part of their quoting process. Sizing changes on sizing of the heat pump changes based on the size of the building too. So the smaller buildings tend to be oversized a lot more frequently. The heat pumps tend to be oversized a lot more frequently. Smaller rooms as well. The mini splits like you saw on the table out there, really, if you have a room that's like 10 by 12 or something like that, a mini split is probably going to be too big for that room. And so you may have to find some alternatives to maybe put them in larger rooms and then keep airflow, something like that. Ducted systems are not going to be a problem with that because there's ducts in every room. But with mini splits, it can be a little bit challenging sometimes to get the smaller rooms done. But yeah, the bigger the house, the more likely the sizing is going to be accurate. Just kind of anecdotally, kind of cool. All right, next thing we want to talk about, that third factor. So we talked distribution, we talked capacity, that's the sizing. We want to talk capacity maintenance. This one is really, really important, especially if you are considering removing your gas, oil, or propane system completely. And that is possible. Trust me, it wasn't maybe 15, 20 years ago, it wasn't the best idea, but now it is completely possible. So capacity maintenance it's a fancy way of saying how much of the oomph is left on the table as it gets really cold out, right? So every heat pump is rated for a nominal capacity. It's like 3 tons, 4 tons, whatever, however many BTUs it is. We want to know, okay, at the rated capacity, that's at 47 degrees. So what happens when it's 5 degrees outside? How much can that system kick out at 5 degrees? Is it the same amount as it does at 47, or is it about 60%, 50%, 80%? And so that's very important, because if you're considering a system that will replace your oil or propane, for example, you want to be able to heat it the entire year, the entire heating season, without having to worry about, do I need a backup fuel source? Do I need electric heat strips? Stuff like that. So one of the things that when I'm looking at the quotes together with you guys is I'll look at that capacity maintenance. I have the data that all these heat pumps are rated, that all data is available. And I'll be able to look at that stuff and kind of help guide you in that direction when we talk about different proposals. If you do want to keep your existing system, fine, that's okay. We won't blame you. But there's something called an integrated control, and this is really kind of cool. Basically, the integrated control is kind of like a really smart thermostat, like smarter than a Nest or something like that. And it reads outdoor temperature, and it has a communication to both systems, both heat pump and fossil fuel. So at a given temperature, pick a number, 25, 22, whatever temperature you guys decide with your contractor is the right side, right for your house. You would basically say, all right, well, above that temperature outside, we're going to use the heat pumps because it's more cost effective. Below that temperature, we're going to use the oil system, the gas system, the propane system, because it's more cost effective. And it's kind of a way to do it automatically so you don't have to worry about it. Set it and forget it, basically. I'm going to throw it over to Paxton to talk about some other stuff here. But yeah, I'll be around afterwards for questions. I do this 3 times a day. So let me know. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, so I'm just going to pick up where you left off here. So Hingham Municipal Light Plant does have a list of qualified products. So contractors will need to select systems from the qualified product list. We use the cold climate air source heat pump list through NEAP. It's a really cool tool that has thousands and thousands of cold climate air source heat pump systems that are going to operate down to those cold temperatures. So it's very important that those systems are the proper systems for the climate. In this way, we can ensure that. When it comes to cost, I had to throw this slide up here just because I know that's what everyone is thinking, how much does it actually cost? But the thing is, at the end of the day, it really, really depends. And I know that's not an answer you like to hear. But as we mentioned earlier, and as Noel mentioned earlier from Energy New England, it's very important you start with a home energy assessment. You get an idea of kind of the weatherization, insulation, air sealing that might need to be done in the home. Because if you don't do that, then you might have kind of an ineffective or inefficient system in your home. So that's one way to think about the cost of the system. Oftentimes, it's really a good idea to invest at the beginning to make sure you are kind of moving through the process in the proper way to get the most energy efficient home. So it really comes down to are you looking for a whole home heat pump? Or are you looking for a partial home system, as Jamie was describing with integrated control? Those are all cost factors. Whether you have ductwork in your home, whether you're looking for a ductless system because maybe you don't have ductwork. A lot goes into it. You can even, have different costs or quotes between contractor, brand being proposed. So it takes a little bit of time to kind of look at your options, look at what you're trying to do. And that's why we're here to help you through virtual consultations, through a quote comparison tool. And we can go to the next slide. So it's just a little bit more of the importance behind weatherization and what it can do. So depending on how tight your home is, it could actually influence the size of the heat pump system that is being proposed. There's a lot of environmental benefits to proper insulation and air sealing in your home and making sure that there's proper ventilation. So it kind of gets tied into the just overall comfort and performance of your home. So the quote comparison tool is a really cool tool that basically takes your heating fuel usage, some information about your specific home. You create an account online through the BODE website, and you'll be able to put in all this information, upload quotes that you receive from contractors, and we'll on the back end basically take those quotes, run it through a tool, and you'll see this. So a really cool report that actually breaks down the efficiency of the system and the cost of operation compared to your pre-existing heating system, because again, we're using that fuel usage. You can upload a manual J, as Jamie was mentioning before, that heat load calculation. So that gets all worked into this tool that actually will give you a good idea of how the system might operate. Maybe some of the, your primary motivations might just be carbon reduction. It'll actually be able to tell you what that carbon reduction would be for each proposal. And it just kind of gives you a visually appealing way to help, make a decision at the end of the day, because it is, not a small project, and you don't want to be doing it every 10 years. So the next page is actually going to just go into a little bit more detail, again, about the sizing of the system. So again, the sizing is very important in terms of how well it's going to operate in your home. So you can see there that it'll actually take into consideration a lot of the data points that the NEAP air source heat pump list has. And it'll break down how that system is going to compare to the other proposals. All right, so I'm actually going to throw this just back to Jamie here.
Yes. I have to. I got to read it. It's hard to read when you're going like that. So basically, one of the things that we go about talking about with all the customers that I talk to is advice to work with HVAC installers. So I try to help you prepare for what questions to ask as you're interviewing different contractors and whatnot. So definitely want to request the size of calculation, that manual J calculation. You only really need to get that from one contractor because it's kind of the same data from everybody and it's a lot of work. So you only really need that once. Request that they quote models that meet the demands of your situation and are rebate eligible. So as Paxton was mentioning, there is a list of qualified products that they have to draw from. It's only about 150,000 or so products, so that they should be able to find one. But just to be rebate eligible, it's important. The outdoor units and the piping is a very important question. Where is this thing going to go? Is it going to go in my front yard? Is it going to be very visible? Is it going to be in my backyard? Where's the pipes go on the side of the house for the refrigerant? That kind of stuff. They're going to look at the electrical panel as well and make sure that that's at least evaluated so you can see if it needs to be upgraded. Most homes with 100 amp would probably need to upgrade to 200 amp, just anecdotally. It is possible to do a heat pump with 100 amp, but 200 amp is usually better. And then just to confirm their availability to assist with the rebate process. So one more slide for you guys. We recommend getting at least 3 quotes and then come to me. I'll help you review them. They do have a list of preferred contractors that work with the program in Hingham. So there's the list on the website, which is abode.energy/HMLP, which we'll put up in a sec. Then you could take advantage of the no-cost quote comparison, select an installer, and then you apply for the rebates after that. So we try to make it a pretty seamless process, and HMLP helps out a lot. So that's what I got. We got one more slide. It's just some contact information. Abode.energy/HMLP gets you to both mass save and non-mass save customers, MLP customers. There's a pathway for each of you in that page, so feel free to see what you can do. Thank you guys so much.
All right, everyone. My name is Zoe Eckert. It's nice to meet everyone. I work with MWEC, which is the state-designated not-for-profit joint action agency that runs a number of different programs on behalf of municipal light plant towns in Massachusetts. For Hingham Electric Light, we run the demand response program called Connected Homes. So we can go to the next slide. So I'm going to step a little bit back and explain something that happens in the utility industry so that I can explain what demand response is and what the program Connected Homes does. So in New England, across the nation, but in New England specifically, from the federal regulatory body that oversees electric utilities, has a sub-agency. It's called ISO New England. Now, ISO New England's job is to make sure that if everybody is using everything in their home that runs on electricity all at the same time, ISO New England needs to be able to make sure that there's enough energy on the grid and that our infrastructure on the grid is sized correctly and updated correctly so that there's not a blackout, that you can use the energy that you need to use. So that means for your utility in Hingham, your light plant, that they get billed from ISO New England for that agency to have the grid maintained at the highest level that your light plant uses. So what you see on the screen, it's a 24-hour day. Usually in the evening, your town is using the most electricity sometime between 4 and 8 p.m., which means every single month there is 1 hour of the day in March. I think it'll be around the March 2nd time. We got a really big cold snap. Everyone turns their heating on. There's 1 hour a day within every single month that your town used the most amount of electricity, and ISO New England uses the amount of electricity that you used on that given hour to determine what you get billed. Now, that means that all of the utilities do a number of different things to try to lower the energy that's being used during that hour so that they're lowering costs. Now, one of the programs that Hingham provides is Connected Homes, and you can go. Now, when we think about the things that use a lot of electricity in a home, when you're electrifying, which as all the presentations have talked about today, there's a number of different comfort, costs to heat your home with heat pumps, electrifying and decarbonizing for the climate. There's a number of different benefits to getting a heat pump or mini splits in your home, but there is a little bit of an impact, which means that there's more energy being used from the electricity side for your utility. Now, when we think about the things in our home that use a lot of electricity, I mean, the number one really is it's electric vehicles. Those use an enormous amount of electricity, but heat pumps are close behind it. They've got a big impact on how much electricity your light department needs to be able to get to the town at any given moment. So heat pumps are a large driver of what we call demand response. And demand response are a bunch of initiatives, Connected Homes being one of them, where we're doing a number of different things to lower that energy usage, specifically during those times where we think ISO New England is going to bill your utility for the amount of energy that you're using. And anecdotally, from a very high level, from the utility standpoint, in a given year, you're really talking about millions of dollars that your utility is trying to save in order to keep your rates low. So next slide. So how does Connected Homes come into play? And I think you click a couple times and different pictures come up. There we go. So you are all investing in technology that is being put into your home. And a number of those technologies, because there's more of them that are becoming a lot more popular in the marketplace, are what are called smart Wi-Fi enabled devices. So that's electric vehicles, electric vehicle chargers, hot water heaters, and then the smart thermostats that control mini splits and heat pumps and hot water heaters. Those are smart devices, which means they use Wi-Fi, and we can control the energy usages of those devices through the Wi-Fi. So what Connected Homes is you're the homeowner, you've got heat pumps or mini splits in your home, and you've got, say, a Google Nest smart thermostat that's controlling the energy temperature. You sign up through your light department for Connected Homes, and we then connect with Google to your device and say that, you know what, today we think that because of a number of different factors, it's going to be the peak energy hour for your town today. We think it's going to be from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. tonight. So at about 10 o'clock this morning, my team would have made that decision, and we'd send you a text and an email saying it's going to be a peak event for those Wi-Fi thermostats that you enrolled in the program. We're going to reduce the energy usage of your system slightly during that time so that throughout the town, we're reducing the energy usage and we're saving the utility money on what you will be billed for that month. So we do that, like I said, with a number of different devices, but this forum is on heat pumps, so that's one of the main devices that we connect with. Anecdotally, the energy usage that we're lowering, it's not greatly impactful to the comfort of your home. We generally are lowering your heat pumps or mini splits by, depending on which season it is, up or down 3 degrees. So something that's very doable to handle for a couple of hours in your home, but really has an enormous cost impact for your utility. It saves them money on the bills that they have to pay, which means it keeps your rates as low as they are when you're lucky to live in a municipal light plant town and have the low rates that you do for your electricity. So that's Connected Homes. That's when we call those events about 4 or 5 times a month when we think that they're going to happen. That's Connected Homes, so that's a couple times a month. But Hingham also provides for you an additional program called EV scheduled charging that I did want to touch on quickly because it's a very great program for Hingham residents. If you're looking to get an electric vehicle or you have an electric vehicle already, your light department will provide you a full rebate or a partial rebate if it's a partial EV to elected EV charger brands. And then for giving you that charger, they're going to turn down the energy usage, turn really off the charging of that charger on non-holiday weekdays in the evening to make sure that electric vehicles aren't really bumping up that energy usage for the town during those times. It saves your light department a lot of money, which then is passed on to you through low rates. So that's another program. These all fall within demand response. And really the concept is when everyone gets home, what are the things that you do? plug in your EV if you have it. You make sure that your air conditioning's on or your heat's on, depending on the season. You start your electric oven, you start your washer and dryer, you turn on your dishwasher. So we're all getting home and we're all doing that in any given day. So we're using a lot of energy all at the same time. And we want to try to distribute when we're using energy throughout the day to lower the costs of the electric grid and make sure that we can all keep electrifying for the various beneficial reasons that are out there, but making sure that our electric rates aren't hugely impacted in the fact that we're doing that. So those are the two demand response programs that your light department offers to you. Next slide. There are a number of different manufacturers that work with us in this program. If there is a manufacturer that you have that you don't see at any given time in the program, we are constantly updating and evolving the list of manufacturers that we work with. We're reaching out to various new ones every day, really. So it's a collaborative effort. You tell us who you might have that you don't see on the list, and we'll approach them and ask them if they'd like to be part of the program. And we work on getting those in there. So next slide. The team that runs this, you go to nextzero.org, where you'll see both the information pages on both of these programs available to you. You will also see my team's phone number and email address, and you can contact us at any given time to answer any questions about what demand response is, how you can get your devices enrolled in this program, and how you can receive the bill credit benefits that are eligible with each of the device types to lower your electric bill as an incentive for participating in these types of programs. All right, and that's it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christy. I'm with CET. I'll tell you a little bit more about our organization in a moment. But I'm specifically talking with you today about the Energy Saver Home Loan Program, which, as mentioned, is one of the financing options available that can help offset the cost of a heat pump, excuse me. The short of it is that the Energy Saver Home Loan Program is intended for low and moderate income homeowners to make energy efficient upgrades that might otherwise be inaccessible for financial reasons. CET has a number of programs that I see as barrier reducing programs, and this is one of them, where we find things where we can identify what the roadblocks are for people, what the real practical blocks are for them to progress in their efficiency journey, and find ways to try to eliminate those roadblocks, and this is one of those. Benefits include, so in general, these are low-interest second mortgage loans to support energy efficiency improvements, free end-to-end support through every step of the process, and I'll talk a little bit more detail about all of these things in a moment. Comprehensive identification and coordination of all available incentives, rebates, and credits across program types. We track every possible incentive, from mass save rebates to MLP heat pump incentives and tax credits, and handle all the paperwork as well. There's financing upfront with no down payment required and no waiting for rebates or incentive payments to kick in. We already heard a little bit about why this matters, and I loved the graph with the Hingham specific information. I will say, I apologize that I'm reading from my slides. I'm actually a waste reduction expert, and I'm the pinch hitter for today. So we'll try to answer your questions as well as I can later, but I might need to defer to our program experts. But I was happy to see on the Hingham graph slide that your waste is actually a tiny, tiny amount. So we'll talk about the building information. So residential and commercial buildings in general account for about 30% of greenhouse gas emissions in the state overall. And about 60% of all building emissions come from 1 to 4 family homes. So that's sort of what we're focused on with this. So who the heck are we? CET is many, many things. We're an environmental nonprofit. We're based in Western Massachusetts. We have staff all over the country at this point. We administer over 60 different waste and energy reduction programs. So we're a massive commercial vendor. We do a lot of waste work. Those are actually our signs over there from our Recycling Works program. We're helping this be a zero waste event, which is super exciting. We also administer the Mass DEP's Green Team, which is the K-12 sustainability curriculum for schools in the state. And then one of the other things that we do with the energy efficiency is programs like this one. We also have, there's a program called IUI, which is not yet in Hingham, but hopefully coming at some point soon. That's an on-bill tariff financing option. So lots of variety of ways that we're trying to help move the sustainability needle in New England and beyond. We also work through our energy programs with Abode, with Next Zero, with Mass Save. So thanks to everybody who's presented on all the details of your programs otherwise and who are here today. Briefly, our mission is to innovate, implement, and scale the environmental solutions that communities need to thrive. So again, coming back to finding what are the barriers to people actually progressing and how can we help alleviate those is really our bread and butter at CET. So for the Energy Saver Home Loan Program, these loans are made in partnership with what are called concierge service providers. We're one of them. We guide homeowners through the home energy improvement process. You can see in the bottom corner there, I left this slide on here. So north of Boston, there's another organization called All In Energy that helps with that. Those towns on the Cape, there's Cape Light Compact, and then for everywhere else, it's us. I personally love the concierge piece of this, in part because I think we all know, or maybe are, someone who has had frustrations with either the Mass Save process or whatever other process, feeling like things don't progress. And as a concierge service provider, we really are able to help a customer from start to finish, from that first call to making sure that you get your money for your incentive or your loan paid out in a timely manner. So let's take a look real quick at a typical customer journey. So the energy efficiency journey begins with a concierge service provider intake, where we gather all the key information to understand the needs. We conduct an eligibility screening to ensure you qualify for the program. So that'll be income, property details, owner occupancy, etc. Once confirmed, we help you select the right lender and refer you to an energy service provider, or ESP, for the next steps. They conduct a decarbonization assessment, which identify the areas where energy use can be reduced and carbon emissions can be minimized. And they create a decarbonization plan and gather contractor quotes for the necessary upgrades. Once we have a plan and have the quotes, then we prepare the loan project summary and help the homeowner submit the loan application. The lender or Mass Housing handles the underwriting process, and then once that's all approved, we move forward to closing the loan. Finally, we ensure that you get whatever rebates or incentives that apply, and we do our best to maximize the savings by bundling projects, by making sure that we've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. It's intended to be a seamless journey, or as seamless as possible, with continuous support from start to finish, as I mentioned. So to take advantage of the ESHLP, there are a few eligibility criteria a homeowner needs to meet that ensure that the program supports the homeowners who are most in need of these energy-saving improvements. And I'll qualify that by saying most in need in the sense that there are not other programs that potentially could help support them. So this program specifically is intended to help, like I said, low and middle income customers. So the income limits vary by county and are based on the total gross income of all homeowners listed on the property deed. Homeowners with income below 80% of the area median income, or AMI, may qualify for a 0.5% interest rate. Those with 80% to 135% of AMI may qualify for a 2% interest rate. And these numbers are from the Mass Housing website. So you can go to the website and find that out, or find out for a neighbor if you're in a neighboring town. Of course, this is by county. So if you're still in Plymouth County, then that would apply. The property type, this loan program is available for single-family homes up to 4 family properties in Massachusetts. Condos and cooperatives are not eligible, unfortunately, and trusts will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. And then finally, it has to be your primary residence. So again, this loan is intended to cover a very specific group of people where there previously was a little bit of a gap in funding availability. So if it's not your primary residence, unfortunately, this program is not yours. There are a number of eligible improvements. So these offer flexible financing for a wide variety of things. During the intake and evaluation process, the CSP will help identify these improvements. Home improvements must reduce the total energy usage by 20%. So this really is intended to be for bigger ticket projects or bundled projects where the total improvement will be 20% or more. There are 3 main categories. So I know the text on here is very small, so I apologize. The green that are bold are what are considered major improvements. The green that are not bold are minor improvements, and then everything else is considered an add-on. So the major contributors are the ones that include heat pump water heaters, air sealing, and insulation. These are the key measures that can significantly lower your energy consumption and are likely to get to that 20% with one of those in the mix. The minor contributors can also help meet the 20% energy reduction requirement, but might not do it by themselves. They might not get you there. And then once you've met that 20% reduction, there are also these add-on measures and additional upgrades. These add-ons must be related to energy efficiency. So like, for example, there's tree pruning on there. Unfortunately, this loan is not intended to help cover the pruning of your trees out in your back 40. This is really for the trees that are near your house that are going to contribute to your energy efficiency picture. The ESP will guide the homeowner through all available options to help achieve the targets. And note also that this is not available for anything related to fossil fuels. So you can't be switching from one fossil fuel program to another. This really is intended for the electrification. There is a solar exception pathway. So if you have heat pumps that were installed after January 1st, 2023, you might qualify for this loan program to be applicable for solar. So we can provide some more information about that. There still needs to be that 20% offset of your energy use. So when in doubt, definitely contact the program and we can provide details about your situation. Or join us for an upcoming live info session. So again, this is not my primary program. There probably will be some questions that folks have today that I will do my best to answer, but I strongly recommend, if this is something you want to find out more about, put this on your calendar, Wednesday, April 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern. There will be a lot more detail with folks who really know the nitty-gritty of this program and of energy efficiency projects in general. So real briefly, a couple customer examples. This is Jessica. We had some comments internally when we were reviewing this presentation that Jessica looks a little sad. So that's... which is unfortunate because she qualifies for the program. So her household income is below the 80% max. She lives in a 4-family home, and she therefore is qualified for the program. Our next customer example, Bob, he's above the 80% max, so his gross income is $135,000, but below the 135% max. He owns and lives in a single-family home, and he qualifies for the program, but he would have that higher 2% interest rate. And finally, Patrice, very stylish. She is within that 80% to 135 range. However, this is not her primary residence, so she unfortunately would not qualify for this particular financing program. And I think that is it. This is one of my coworkers doing an energy assessment. This is the contact information for the program. I, of course, have a table out there with my cards and my contact information. If you want to talk trash, I'll talk trash all day long. But feel free to reach out to me. If you want to take one of my cards or my information, if you contact these numbers and you're not getting anywhere, feel free to give me a call. I'm always happy to see what I can do otherwise, of course. And thank you so much.